anything to start with? If not, we can go ahead and start with Q&A. It's your floor.
Okay, well, do y'all have any questions? Any questions about the movie? We're 40 years in, just that's a part of it that, you know, if you don't have a question, I can kind of do a little intro.
Yeah.
Well, let's shoot with a question.
My understanding is the movie got some backlash when it came out.
Yes, sir.
What about you, being in the movie? You know, did you face any backlash from people, or personally, or?
Nothing personally, although it did strike home a little bit because here I'd just been introduced to Hollywood, and this was my first piece, really, my first film, and to have it going so well out the gate, it was literally in the top 10 as far as grossing films at that time. It was, this might be a shock to some of y'all, but it was out in front of Nightmare on Elm Street. We were doing a little bit better than they were, and I always like to bring that up. But anyway, so a little bit, you know, personally, it just, when it got pulled from the theaters, it hurt a little bit, you know, and I guess I could expound on that a little bit. It hurt more than just for the moment, because I thought all of a sudden, because Siskel and Ebert and the powers that be in Hollywood, you know, gave it a big thumbs down and said, how could we do such a thing? And let's see, so how does life go? For the next 30 years, I did some more stuff in Hollywood. I hung around pursuing other things. I did some soap opera work and some things like that, and some episodic TV stuff. And but with regards to the movie, because it got canceled, I kind of started running a bad tape in my head, as we all kind of run tapes in our heads about things that we've done in our lives. I started running this bad tape that I had done something not so good. And so that's where it kind of took me in that space, which was not cool. But there's a silver lining here. I was invited to the 30-year anniversary of the film at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood by one of the producers. And so I took him up on it. My wife and I went and joined an audience like yourselves and sat amongst them. And so for 30 years, I was kind of running this tape and being able to sit amongst the audience and hang out with y'all and watch the film and enjoy it the way they did. In that moment, I was forever changed. I realized how much y'all appreciate the film. I realized how much humor was in the film. And you know, beyond all that, I realized there was a hell of a following. You guys, you packed the house. So yeah, within that night, my whole opinion, my whole tape that I've been running on the film changed forever. And here I am now. Thank you very much, y'all. I'm honored to be here. I celebrated 40 years this year, so now I get to come out and do some of these cons and get to meet you folks, you know, on a personal basis, and it's truly an honor. What else? As far as horror fans go, I come from kind of a sporting background. My family, we played a lot of sports, so I'm familiar with being, you know, sports fans and being a fan myself. And now that I've had the opportunity to meet with all you horror fans, I say it, and I'll say it again tonight since you're all present. You're the best fans on the planet.
Yeah.
No, truly, thank you. You're the kindest, you're most gracious, and you just appreciate what we do. And I don't know an actor that's, you know, done the work that we do in horror films that doesn't appreciate you guys. And if they don't, there's something there, something else there that, you know, we can't understand, because you guys are great. So thank you very much. I'm just honored to be here with you all. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. I see some familiar faces, so I'll say thanks to you too for coming up and seeing me today and saying hello and you know, and chatting a little bit. Does anybody have any other questions?
What was probably either your most favorite or least favorite to shoot, like scene-wise?
Most favorite was the scene with the little girl, where strangely I give her the box knife, But yeah, that was my most favorite because I thought that it described a lot about where Billy was psychologically, because after all the trauma and after all the killing that he had done, and he had just finished putting Linnea up on the antlers, I felt like it left some redeeming quality, that Billy had a sense of what Santa Claus was supposed to be, what he thought Santa Claus meant, to all the children, and that there was a good Santa, and that if he hadn't done anything wrong, you hadn't been naughty, then you deserved a gift. And so I thought that was my favorite scene, just because it had some redeeming qualities to the character. So it's a great question. I can't think of anything off the hand to say that was a scene that I didn't like shooting. It was a very new experience for me, being an actor, so all of it was just wonderful. Yeah, the whole experience was great. I learned something every day, and I just enjoyed the whole process. Anyone else? Well, thanks. I hope you enjoy the film. 40 years, right on.
Well, hey, go ahead, Dennis.
Oh, I've always wanted to know, because I used to do auditions at the time Bob was back in the 80s, and it's kind of curious to me how you landed the role, because it's really difficult to go on all these auditions, because he's basically the same age as I am, and as far as I remember, between 18 and 25, there were about 40,000 of us in SAG in Los Angeles at that time. So I just know how difficult it was to land something you had to really be on, really be good. And I just was curious, not to go back, but to land a movie with TriStar is exciting as hell. And that's heady stuff. So I just wanted to know how did that come to be. I don't want you, I guess the Cliff Notes version, I want to make you work so hard at it, but it's cool. It's a cool question, because a lot goes into getting this stuff. And you went to an audition. How'd you get there? How did that happen?
Well, yeah, so, thank you, Eric. You guys, this is Eric Freeman, by the way. Garbage day, exactly. So, getting the role, it was typical to any of the jobs that one gets in Hollywood, especially at that time. We all would go to an interview, and we would get a script, and we would prepare that script as best we could, and do our best job to bring life to the writer's words. And so I had a script. I went and met with the casting director, and that's where you generally go. You meet with the casting director and you read your part. You do your part. So I was a very new actor at the time, so the idea of it being TriStar, or the idea of it being a lead role in a film, or anything of that nature, had no impact on me, because it was all new to me, and I didn't know who TriStar was, and I didn't know a lead role from a bit role. I was just going in and trying to bring some truth to the writer's words and do my best to portray what they put on paper. So I did the interview, and I felt like it went well. I guess I can use a sports analogy. Sometimes when you get up to bat and you're really seeing the pitch and you're really hitting the ball, when you really strike it. So I felt like I struck it well that day, and lo and behold, I got a call back, and the director who directed the film actually lived in Salt Lake City where we shot the film, and so he wasn't present. So when I came back for the callback, I read for the casting director and the producer. And it was then, not at that moment, but shortly thereafter, that they called my agency and offered me the role. So, yeah, I'd like to dramatize this and say that it was this and it was that, and I really, you know, really got in my tool bag and really found some tricks and really found some way to be Billy. But I was only working from me. I had no tricks. And I just did what I did, and that's kind of what you see in the film, by the way. A very raw actor who had no training, just kind of longer story, but we don't need to go into that. I was kind of discovered in Palm Springs, California, and the next thing I know, I'm doing this film. So, thank you.
I have a question.
How many days on set?
I was there in Heber, Utah for about 5 weeks. And of course, that was just my portion when Billy went bad, basically, because all the stuff prior to that was Little Billy, and then Littler Billy. Yeah. And of course, that wasn't me, but all of that stuff was shot prior. But for my role, I was there for about 5 weeks.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you keep anything from the film, or if you didn't get to, what would you have kept if you could have?
Oh, wow, that's, you know what, it's a great question, and I'm happy and sad that you brought it up. Because for the longest time, I held on to the script, and initially, the name of the film was Sleigh Ride. Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up so I could share that, Sleigh Ride. And I held on to that script for the longest time. And in that 30-year period that I referred to earlier, you know, you get through cleaning stuff out and whatnot, and it got tossed. I also had my Santa suit, and that it got tossed as well. So, like I said, I'm happy you brought the question up, but dang it, why'd you ask that? Yeah, so I really didn't have anything, but I had a pair of gloves, and I still have those from the film, and I have a Santa hat. But that's really all I have that remains from my experience there. And I had a lot more stuff, but just through the years, you know, you thin things out, and you know, and I got rid of some stuff that would be quite valuable these days. So,
Oh, yeah.
cool. Thanks.
Do we have any questions for Eric Freeman at all?
See?
Is
there-
Go ahead, stand up. I know you
Well,
got something.
it's not my film, but it's. There is it.
You did the intro.
Is there any questions?
Did you use any special techniques to get into character for, like, any special motivations or anything?
Let's see. I went in and read for part 2 on a Monday. I didn't even read for, look, you think, I didn't go in for reading for this, for the lead. I went, an untitled horror film in Burbank was in one of these rad sheets for non-union actors. But I went up there anyhow. It was in Burbank by Warner Brothers, and I was reading for one of the cops in the movie. It was the cop says to Caldwell, "Don't do it," or that line. You know, he's about to shoot himself. Don't do it. So I read and left. Oh, as I left, I saw the director, Lee Harry. I didn't know his name but I stopped by and I said, "Well, thank you very much." I said, "Who's got the lead?" And he said, "Oh, we've got that locked down." And he looked over at his partner, Joe, and Joe said, yeah, we got that. And I said, "Well, thank you very much." It was a man named David Heaven, and he's an actor. I think he's done a number of things back in the day. And they really liked this guy, so he was locked down for it. And but their boss, Lee and Joe, their boss, Larry Applebaum, liked me. He thought, I don't know if he thought I looked like the younger Ricky in the movie, in his movie, and but I got called back on Wednesday. They said, "Eric, we want you to read for something else," and then they just wanted me to read for the beginning of my movie, the balloon stuff, the psychiatrist. So I did, And then and I was reading it kind of, it seemed to me to be quite dark, and so I read it kind of dark, and then they said, no, understand this, we need to lighten this up. We're adding more footage, and the person that has the rights wants to reissue this, because unfortunately they pulled it. But it might be more fortunate that they did, in a sense that it has such longevity in the internet, and everybody knows what a great job he did. So they wanted it, so we redid the Bloom business, and I left. It was a Wednesday. Then they called me on Friday, and they said, Eric, we want you for this. We want you for the lead. We're shooting Tuesday. So your question's funny, because there wasn't anything to do but get the dialogue down. There wasn't digging into character. I didn't get to see what he did. They didn't offer it. I went around, I scoured the city looking for his work, video stores, but of course it wasn't there. But and I would have probably played a little entirely different hat. But that's how. Look, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be here. So that's why they asked me to just tag along. But I thought Robert did a fantastic job when I finally saw his movie 6-7 years ago. So fantastic job. I kind of took what they maybe I went the other way. So, but it is a fun movie, crazy. But it's because of the first one and getting pulled and all that hostility toward it, and Siskel and Ebert, and then it just came back in a flood when the net hit, and so and then they were looking, they saw my stuff. I guess it was this garbage, I think, but a lot of people didn't know that there was a movie attached to it. So. But to ask you or to answer that, it wasn't a script. There wasn't really time to get a character. It was bits and pieces of it was out of context dialogue mixed in with the original script, and it was pages here, pages there, but nothing that made sense. Like I think Lee Harry, the director, said it was a Rubik's Cube that you couldn't quite get the colors right. So that's how it was. Thanks. And but it's a great movie. So thanks for coming. Is there anything else? Oh, hi.
A comment and a question. The comment, the Garbage Day thing, as you call it, has 10 million views, over 10 million views on YouTube. You're a legend. The question is, how did you feel when you first heard about this movement to find you that had been going on for years and years and years? So many people were searching for you, interested in knowing what had become of you, where you were. There were all these conspiracy theories. How did you feel discovering that you were so sought after all these years?
Well, oh God. A friend of mine said, Eric, there's this thing called Finding Freeman, and you gotta go look at this. And that was middle of winter. I was back east to deal with a memorial of a family member, and then it was summer, and I was getting my car. My brother was storing the car for me. He's coming to get that. And then he said, Eric, you gotta look at this, Finding Freeman. And you did a movie. And I said, yeah. And he said, a horror film in the 80s. And I said, oh, yeah. And he said, well, it's something. Eric, you gotta, so I went and looked, and there was a lot of good, and there was a lot of bad. And I kind of gravitated toward the bad, like, well, he's a priest in Kansas, he's a gigolo in Thailand, he's all this stuff that disappeared. And so, but I looked at the bad, I looked at the good, and I said, wow, this is something, it's huge. So, it's a nice question, and I appreciate it. I'm the luckiest F in the world to be signing and being alongside him, and he was doing it years earlier at these conventions, so I'm just happy that it's got a place and people love it, and here I am. I was counting the years because it's 37 years, so and that's unbelievable. So here I am, and they call me up and say, hey, you can go meet people that really are just great fans. And just to say that you guys are just so loyal and kind. And, we always have great times here. Robert and I will work out, talk about just like, wow, man, can you believe it? So, and then they'll show his film in LA, and then it's huge audiences, and they call him in to talk about it. So it's great, and I'm just like tagging along, the little brother, but it's been a good run, and I'm glad that he did so well, and that it came back in a rush, and then like, where's that other guy? So that's me. But thank you, and I'm glad you're here, and I really like this guy's movie, and I didn't see it when you guys did back in the day, but I just say I asked that question about, but it is something to say that maybe it was that he didn't know the business so well that he was just so calm about it, not nervous, that he did a great job. And to get to audition and get a call back and get it, to me I always liked that part of it, auditioning and getting it. I thought that was the real work, and that was what mattered, and the rest of it was just work. Do your job and don't F it up. But that was, to me, looking at what I had to go through and struggle, and just for him to land that and to that level, it's just something else. So thank you, and I've talked too much. Appreciate it, though.
Thank you, folks.
A huge thank you to all my patrons and channel members for your generosity and support. Become a patron today and get early access to videos, have a say in what content appears on my channel, join me for monthly live streams, exclusive watch parties, and more. Become a channel member today and get access to exclusive badges and emotes to use when I stream, as well as members-only watch parties. Both those links are in the description. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.